Jai Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Nitya Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Bol, Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Welcome to the Sunday Love Feast program. And it's wonderful to see many of you here today. But, get the word out. The temple is open. It's like normal. So everybody should come in their droves back to the temple. Now, it's our great pleasure to introduce to you the speaker for today. And a senior disciple of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who comes from the United States and come to Africa and then South Africa in 1974. And we began last week a class on reliving the memories of this temple. And Ramanujacharya Prabhu did not get much time then. So we're doing the class today speaking on the memoirs or the memories of Sri Sri Radhanath and Ramanujacharya Prabhu's association with Srila Prabhupada, his preaching, and so on. Very exciting adventures in Krishna consciousness. And we've been telling Prabhu that we need to make a book of his experience in Krishna consciousness. So at least today we have some recording on Facebook, which any of you like to transcribe, you have some service to do. So you let me know if you'd like to take that on, and you can transcribe it. So let us welcome His Grace Ramanujacharya Prabhu. Ki Jai. And as you note, he's a proficient musician, pedantic about it as well. So we need to get that sorted out for him. Yes. Ramanujacharya Prabhu plays guitar, harmonium, and he's very well versed in Sanskrit and many other songs. So we want to hear him now. Hare Krishna.
We're going to tell you all about the Bengal tiger. Do you know who the Bengal tiger is? From Chatsworth? Okay, let's do Radha Madhava. Is that too high? It's too loud, huh? Is that too high? Wait a minute, everything's... Put this in the middle. Little higher?
No, that's fine.
Because I can't tell. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Girivardhari Yashodanandana Jaya Brajajana Ranjana Jaya Brajajana Ranjana Yashodana Jaya Brajajana Ranjana Jaya Brajajana Ranjana Jaya Jamuna Tiravana Chari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Jamuna Tiravana Chari Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Gaura Haribo, Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Gaura Haribo, Gaur Premanande. Can you put this down in the back there? I'd like to say a few words in defense of the guitar for kirtan. Oh, there it is. First of all, harmonium was invented in France. And it was brought to India by the Europeans. Of course, they made some adjustments so that you could play it while sitting on the floor like real Indians do. And then, let's see, which one did I see? Oh, I saw Hariom Sharan's group. He had a guitar. And Jagjit Singh's group, he had a guitar. So it's bona fide. Now you're all wondering who the Bengal tiger is, and we will find out in due course. Some of you already know. So Srila Prabhupada came here in 1975. I first came to South Africa in 1974. And I remember I had to get a visa. And they asked on the visa, "Are you of pure European descent?" They really wanted to know. That was the the situation. And Pushta Krishna Prabhu was the GBC. There were only about 12 temple devotees at the time, and he spent a couple of years try to get, I don't know, a long time. It took a long time for him to get a visa for Srila Prabhupada to come to South Africa, because at that time South Africa and India didn't have diplomatic relations. So, in fact, it said in the Indian passport, not valid for South Africa. And when the devotees from here would go to India, they'd go on Air Mauritius and stop in Mauritius and get a connecting flight, because there were no direct flights. So Prabhupada, actually, before I came to South Africa, I was in Nairobi, and I was feeling a bit homesick to go back to America. And the temple president, Jayavana, said, "Why don't you go to South Africa? It's just like America." And anyway, I ended up here in 1974, and Srila Prabhupada came in 75, and that was October, so it was this month. And then I went with Jagat Guru Prabhu. We were going to go to Dubai because we owed a lot of money to pay for our books to the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust. There was a tendency for devotees to sell books, and they'd get money, and they'd be really happy, but they didn't pay. So we had to get money. So Jagat Guru, and we ended up in Djibouti to try to get a visa to go. Anyway, I'm getting caught up. Djibouti used to be a French colony, and it had the French Foreign Legion there. And then we went to the Emirates. I guess it was a embassy, but Djibouti's a small place. It's right there on the Arabian Sea. And they said, "Are you Hindus?" And I said, "No, we're not Hindus." So then we could see it. They were writing Arabic, but with Roman letters. And we could see they said we were Buddhists. But anyway, they wouldn't let us in, and I ended up going to Bombay. And then I went back to America, and I was homesick for South Africa. Who would have thunk? Don't talk like that. No, it's okay. So, I don't know, I think Krishna wants me to be here. This is my Prabhu Datta Desh, the country that the Lord gives. So then, at that time, Prabhupada came, we were doing programs in Johannesburg and in Durban and Pietermaritzburg. And by the time I came back, Parthasarathi Prabhu, well, he was a brahmachari at the time, now he's a sannyasi. He was doing the tent campaign. And they got the idea from the Christians. The Christians would go and put up marquees and preach about how Jesus is the only way and you're going to hell if you don't accept Jesus and all that. And so some of the Hindus didn't really understand. They'd go to Indian areas. So some people became kind of like bewildered. Gee, I don't want to go to hell. That's not a good thing. So the Bengal tiger, Mr. Rajbansi, now you know, from Chatsworth. I hope you're not too confused. Sounds better than the Chatsworth tiger then. He saw the tent campaign, and Partha Maharaj was setting up all these, we called them service groups at the time, where we would meet in different areas, in different neighborhoods, usually at someone's house or at a Hindu temple once a week, and spread Krishna consciousness in this way. So when we came back, the leader here was Tulsidas Prabhu, and he told us just to get tourist visas and stay illegally. Before we came, we would have to go outside of the country to neighboring countries like Swaziland and Zimbabwe, which was Rhodesia at the time, and Zimbabwe and Malawi, and we'd get a new passport and come in again. But no, it was costing too much money. And the government was under apartheid at the time. That's the most famous word, the most famous Afrikaans word in the world, apartheid. So, but they liked white people to come in. So we had a lot of devotees who would come in. Mainly they were coming from America or from Europe. So we had a whole bunch of devotees here preaching. And then we had one devotee who started making bumper stickers, reflective bumper stickers that said Hare Krishna and Om signs. I don't know if you might have remembered some of those. And that was a way of getting funds for the temple. Thing is, he left the temple, and he was set up in front of Popat Kara with a table dressed like an ISKCON devotee with a dhoti and kurta, shaved head. And people thought they're giving money for the Hare Krishna movement, but actually he was keeping it for himself. So later on he came to the temple because we knew about it. And there was kind of a big fight, and it actually became physical. So he became very angry, and he knew that there were 11 of us from America and Europe that were illegally in the country, and he went to the government and said, these Hare Krishnas are all illegal. So then Tulsi Das, at the same time also while this was going on, we got this property from Rajbansi, the Bengal tiger from Chatsworth. And we had to pay 1 rand for this property. And we got a discount. And Gokulendra was into the temple, building the temple project. So our GBC was Jayatirtha Prabhu, and he was quite popular. So we had dug the pit, and we had installed an antashesh in the bottom of the pit to start the construction. And a devotee named Raja Ram, who was from Austria, was the architect. And we decided to do a more modern temple instead of a traditional Hindu temple. And so we kind of started, but we needed a lot of money. And then now the government found out we were all illegal. Shri Shri Radha Radhanath Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. Then this devotee had told the government how we're all here illegally on tourist visas and we were illegal. So then they didn't know what to do, because as soon as that happened, Tulsi Das had gone to the Indian newspapers. There was the Leader and the Post. The Leader is no more. Dehanto Gaya. Okay. So, and in these Indian newspapers it says, Hare Krishna's in danger of getting kicked out of South Africa. And at the same time, the government wanted to start the tricameral parliament. They wanted to get the coloreds and the Indians involved in the government so they had bigger numbers, because they were very worried about Africans. So Rajbansi was the representative to the government for the Indians. And then at the same time, the GBC changed to Bhagavan Das, and we had to change all our preaching had to stop basically, and we started a painting business because we needed lots of money, and just preaching by itself doesn't bring in a lot. Even now, we kind of make ends meet with maintaining our temple. We don't have a lot of, so we needed a lot of money, and so Tribanga and others were preaching to the Indians. We got about 1/3 of the money for the temple from the Indian community, but 2/3 came from the painting business. We were getting paintings from Hong Kong and Korea, and we had to stop preaching. And that was really hard because we had to grow our hair out, wear Western clothes, and I became a partner with Bhakti Chaitanya Swami. And we were traveling mainly in the Free State and Cape Town. We opened some shops, and we couldn't talk about Krishna. It was very difficult. We couldn't talk about Krishna. We couldn't dress as devotees. But somehow we carried on for about 5 years selling paintings. See, this is a higher type of devotional service when you do something you don't want to do, but you're doing it for Krishna's pleasure. Like Arjun, he didn't want to fight, but he fought anyway because Krishna wanted him to fight. So that's actually a higher level than doing what I want to do for Krishna. But if you do something because, Prabhupada would say, do the needful, and Prabhupada did so many things he didn't want to do. He didn't want to manage, but he was forced to manage. So then we had the opening. This is basically the story. It's not that long. But Mr. Rajbansi was working with the government to get us work permits to stay in the country to finish the temple. Because the government wanted to see, well, what are you doing in South Africa? And although they were trying to they wanted to spread Christianity among the Indians, but because many of the Indians were Hindus, they said, okay, that's their culture. They didn't mind. And so building a temple, they wanted to see something amazing. And so this temple is amazing. Sometimes we come here all the time. But it's a work of art. And Rajaram was the architect. I tried to find out. His name was Hans Raudner. And I looked him up on Google. I couldn't find. He did come back for a quick visit, but I don't know much about where he is. But Mr. Rajbansi, because the government wanted to get the goodwill of the Indian people to involve them in the Tricameral Parliament, they didn't want to alienate them by kicking out all the Hare Krishnas. So Rajbansi organized for us to get work permits. And then there were 11 of us. And when we went into the office with our passports and said we were on tourist visas, which were long overdue, they looked up and the man said, "Never mind, just do it." And then not only that, we got a lot of big petitions and everything. And also how we got our name, International Society for Krishna Consciousness. We were originally registered as a white movement by this devotee named Gokulendra. Gokulendra went in to the registrar, and the man said, no, you can't have this name. It has to be Society for Krishna Consciousness in South Africa. He said, but we're international and we've got centers all over the world. He said, no, it has to be Society for Krishna Consciousness in South Africa. So the man asked for his secretary to bring his tea, and Gokulendra had some Simply Wonderfuls in a small container. And then next to the tea biscuits, he put some Simply Wonderfuls. So then the man started eating, thought this was odd, and he started eating them. Then he said, "Give them their name." So this is like the whole story behind the temple. It was opened in October 1985. They say it's 37 years ago. Is that right? That's what they say. And now we have about 9 of the temple devotees are in India because of the pandemic. There was a blockade and they couldn't travel back and forth. But they'll come back soon. Any questions?
I'd like to know how you joined.
How I joined? Okay. I was a hippie. The hippies were also called the counterculture. First of all, there was, at that time in America, there was a Vietnam War. They wanted to draft me into the army and send me to Vietnam. You know, Indradyumna Swami was a Marine, U.S. Marine. There was a BTG article with him with his Marine uniform and everything. And I said, "Did you go to Vietnam?" He said, "No, but the rest of my platoon went, and not one of them came back." So it's one of these ridiculous wars to stop the spread of communism. But they've all become capitalists now. So then I was looking for spiritual life. I went to the Zen center. One time I was reading books on Buddhism. I saw a Buddhist monk in San Francisco. I was very attracted, and he had orange cloth on. And I said, "Are you a Buddhist?" He said, "Yes." He said, "I'm reading books by Alan Watts." He said, No. You should read books by D.T. Suzuki." So T.T. Suzuki was Japanese and he wrote books about Zen Buddhism. But it was still not the right thing. Then I was a musician. I played guitar. And I liked it that through music you could become Krishna conscious. And I thought, hey, this is really simple. There's only 3 words you have to know: Hare Krishna and Rama. So I thought, this is a really simple religion, you know. And we used to do a lot of singing in the street in those days. Anyway, and then I used to have hair down to my shoulders. Another person who had long hair was our Tattvadarshan Tulsi Das, who is our Mr. Fix-It around here. He used to have long hair. I don't know, anybody remember that? So anyway, but in those days we just had it was small. This was 1969. And we had a shop front. That means, you see them in some of the old areas, that you have a shop and usually there's a flat above it, and you know, they have big picture windows and people would put merchandise, just small. We used to sleep in the basement. But anyway, in order to join, you had to shave your head. And so that meant I had to give up my beautiful long hair. But see, it's an identity, because you were giving up you're leaving first of all, you leave straight society to join the counterculture, the hippie society. And then to leave that, you have to become a devotee, you have to join ISKCON, and you had to give up your hair and drugs and all these things. My godbrother, Ravindra Swarup, said that the devotees in those days, they dropped out twice. They dropped out of the straight society, and then they dropped out of hippie society to join the movement. So at that time I had a book called the I Ching, which was a Chinese book of divination, and you would throw coins, and the different combinations of heads and tails would give you, there were 3 coins, and it would give you, it was like fortune telling, and there were trigrams, and you can see these trigrams on the Korean flag. They have 4 trigrams on the 4 corners, and there's a yin-yang in the middle. So anyway, by throwing the coins in different ways, I forgot how you do it, you'd get an answer in the book. So I said, should I become a temple devotee? And I was throwing, and the answer I got: upon entering the house of the supreme ruler, success will be achieved. So I joined. And then I was playing guitar at Powell Market. Powell Market was the end of the cable car line. And in those days, we would do lots of kirtan, and other devotees would go and sell Back to Godhead magazines to the crowd. But see, San Francisco is like a tourist town, so we'd get like crowds of people around to see what was this all about. And then they'd sell BTGs, but I was always in the kirtan playing guitar. And I was thinking, I don't know if this is bona fide. But Madhudvisha, the temple president, he'd say, "Play the guitar, Johnny." So somehow Krishna got a hold on me. And I'm still here since 1969. That's how I joined. And then different adventures, living in India. Stayed in Calcutta for a year to start the first big building. Then I came to I came to Africa. I thought there'd be all kinds of wild animals all over the place. And so I came first, I was in Kenya, and then we would go and make life members in Zambia and Tanzania. And then I was traveling with Shamlal. We later, seeing our life members, making new life members, we went to more African countries, mostly to visit the Indian communities. Mostly they're Gujaratis doing business. We had his name was Shamlal. And we called it the Raman Sham Traveling Party. See, I was Sham and he was Ram. He couldn't come in South Africa at that time, but he went to the manor and he married Sri Murti. And he also liked South Africa, and he brought Bhakti Charaswami here. So, still a very nice place, all things considered. They say if there's a World War III, it's good to be in the southern hemisphere, because in the northern hemisphere they'll all be shooting missiles back and forth. Because in the northern hemisphere you've got United States and Canada, and then Western Europe and Russia and China and all these places, and we're kind of out of, we don't fight. There's fighting inside, but not politically with other countries. So, from that point of view, if there's a World War III, I think we can grow enough food. We might have to go back to using horses and oxen. So, Srila Prabhupada came. We had a house in Yeovil, which was a white area in Johannesburg. See, you might think this is odd, saying this is a white area, but it was apartheid at that time. And 59 Muller Street in Yeovil in Johannesburg. So Prabhupada stayed in that house with us, There was a little servant's quarter in the back. We had one lady, Rochini. She stayed there. And Prabhupada got the 5th canto. And there's pictures of Prabhupada smiling, reading the 5th canto. Bhargava was the photographer. Hari Kesh was Prabhupada's secretary. But because it was kind of hard to get in South Africa, and we had about 12 devotees in the temple. And one time we had the South African Secret Service, someone joined the temple to see if we were starting a rebellion or something. But when they found out about the morning program and everything, they said, this is really tough. It was getting up at 4 a.m. and singing and dancing and chanting and all that, and being a vegetarian. They thought it was really, really hard. So, but Prabhupada, even though it was, strictly speaking, Prabhupada wasn't supposed to stay there because he was a non-white, but he would sit in a chair on the front lawn with the devotees, and they were reading Chaitanya Charitamrita to Prabhupada. And I was making chapatis for Prabhupada, rotis, and they would have to be like puffed up, like a ball. And you'd bring them into Prabhupada, and he'd have a little bowl of ghee with a spoon, and he would smash it down with his hand, take with the ghee and put it around with the back, and pour it on the chapati, and smooth it around with the back of the spoon. He wasn't eating rice at that time. He would change it. And then Harikes was saying, for breakfast, Prabhupada wanted puffed rice and peas. So this was in a white area, and we couldn't get any puffed rice in the area because they don't sell it in the white supermarkets. So Harikes said, just get some Rice Krispies. So then we were making. You have a big karai and put some spices. I think it was. Prabhupada had everything cooked with ghee. He didn't like that. He preferred everything cooked with ghee, and we'd put in some jeera and a little bit of chili and hing and whatever, and you dry roast you just cook all the fresh peas, not frozen. You cook the Rice Krispies with peas and serve it to Prabhupada. And after a couple of days, he said, "What is this?" Then Harikes brought in the box of Rice Krispies, snap, crackle, and pop. And then they asked Prabhupada, he said, what is this? And then by that time, though, we had gone to the Indian area, gotten the puffed rice, mumra. And so he said, this is made by Karmis. But then Shruta Kirti, who is Prabhupada's servant, wrote a book called What is the Difficulty? And he visited here. And I was telling him about this story, and Prabhupada said, this is made by Karmis. And Shruta Kirti said, yeah, but who made the puffed rice? See? So somebody cooked the puffed rice. So anyway, and then in the afternoon, Rukma Prabhu, I made the chapatis, and Rukma Prabhu made the dal and the sabjis, the vegetables, because he was trained by Kirtanananda in New Vrindavan, and Prabhupada had trained Kirtanananda Prabhu. So he knew how Prabhupada liked things cooked. So then, so that took care of the lunch. Prabhupada would have water with lunch. And then in the 4 in the afternoon, we don't have the green coconut water like you get in more tropical areas. So Prabhupada wanted pineapple juice. So the pineapple juice, we didn't have a juicer, so I would clean the pineapple and chop it up and squeeze it in a cloth to get the pineapple juice. And then Prabhupada would you'd serve it to him with a little bowl of fine salt with a spoon in it, and this was like 4 in the afternoon, and Prabhupada would take the salt and stir it into the pineapple juice. He said it cuts the acid. And then Prabhupada had different programs, Indian areas. We were at the great hall at Wits, Hey, you know what? I have a problem with my bladder, and I have to go past urine. I'm sorry. It's a problem with my body, and I'm going to be gone for 5-6 minutes. You can have kirtan. I'll be back soon. I shall return.
Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Hare Krishna.
Adi Das. Adi means the original, and Das means servant. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Sorry, it's just there's one lecture and Prabhupada gave in the first temple in New York, and they actually had the toilet next to the Vyasasan. And he said, "Sorry, I have to answer the call of nature." So I guess nature can call in different ways. So, what are we going to do? Going to do kirtan now? Shall I play my bona fide guitar? You, please.
Are there any questions?
Anybody else brave enough to ask a question?
Hare Krishna.
In 1975, were you at the community center? That time we didn't have a hall. At the Reservoir Hills.
Yes, I guess so. See, okay, I didn't go on morning walks.
No. You were in the...
I was there, I was generally there, but that was, 75.
I was a little boy.
Okay, what's 75? That's 25 plus 22.
After university...
47 years ago. That's a long time ago. I don't remember everything.
There's a picture of you playing the cartel.
Maybe.
Yes. In the magazine.
Maybe.
You were very thin.
Yes.
Very thin.
Yes. I have expanded.
Yes.
My circumference has increased. Also, another thing is, when Prabhupada would do I was talking about the morning, Prabhupada would eat puffed rice and puffed rice with peas, or originally it was Rice Krispies and peas and fruit. And then for lunch, I would make the chapatis that all blew up, the way they make them in India, rotis. And then at 4 o'clock, he'd have his pineapple juice with salt. And then he'd do an evening, actually I didn't appreciate Pushta Krishna so much, he's late now, but he did a lot to organize Prabhupada's coming here. I was there, and Parthasarathi Das Goswami Maharaj was worshipping deities of Gaur Thai. And they were, usually Gaur Thai had their hands both in the air, but these deities, one was like this, and one was like this. And we played the Govindam Adipurusham prayers, and he was the head pujari, and I was mainly the cook. I also cooked for the devotees. When we came to Durban, we were using the house of V.N. Nayak in Westville, and it was like a horseshoe shaped, 3 sides with a courtyard in the middle. So we met, people came, and then at night when Prabhupada would come home from the preaching, he liked kachoris. And I'm talking about Bengali kachoris, not what we call kachoris here. What we call, Prabhupada taught us to make he called them samosas. And when Prabhupada made them, he taught us to stuff them with cauliflower and peas. And then here they make it with paneer and corn, and they call it a kachori, but it's an ISKCON samosa. The real kachori, you'd have a ball of dough, like, this big, and then you'd put your finger or your thumb inside and make a hole, and then you'd make a paste with urad dal. And Rukma also learned to make these from Kirtanananda, who learned how to make them from Prabhupada. So there's the way Prabhupada liked them, and the way Prabhupada was expert in many things. He was a good cook. And then you'd put, mainly chili powder, See, I didn't make them, so I'm not sure exactly the spices. I know it had hing in it, asafoetida and chili powder, and salt. I think they put salt, and Prabhupada didn't worry about it. But and then you would close it up at the top and flatten it out and deep fry it in ghee. Ghee. So Prabhupada liked things cooked in ghee. And he said, in our restaurants, if we cook everything with ghee, people will give up their taste for eating meat. Because ghee is really animal fat. So, yes. I'm feeling ringing in my ears. So I think we're going to have a kirtan now, right? I won't do the Gora Arti. They won't understand. They can't follow, huh? Huh?
Hare Krishna. Shri Shri Radha Radhanath ki, Shri Shri Radha Damodar ki, Shri Giri Govardhan ki, Shri Shri Nitai Gaura Hari ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.